A while back, I saw this video on the old Instagram. It's from Boone Miller. It's a great video. It's showing how annoying it is to plant around things with today's larger equipment. As you can see, it's not as simple as just turning the steering wheel. You could simply loop around, which would be faster, but it leaves gaps where you haven't planted, and then the gaps, they're going to fill with weeds. And then the weeds, they're going to create weed seeds, which gives you more weeds the next year. Hence and therefore, why we try to get so close to things so their weeds don't come up. But you got to remember, it's not just planting. We have to spray multiple times around things with booms sometimes over 100 feet wide. That gets a little sketch. Let's not forget about harvest. Let's just say that this is corn. See, you can't just dart in and out like that with corn because you've got the snouts, and if you dart out, you're going to knock over the corn. You're going to lose more than you gain. Obviously, everybody farms a little differently, but for the most part, farmers try to utilize every inch of ground they've got. I tweeted this video that shows me planting around one of my wind turbines. I then asked, what are some interesting or unusual or annoying things that people farm around? Well, let's start at the very beginning because, that's a very good place to start. Imagine farming around this majestic 100-year-old tree. Or you could just cut it down because, shut up, nature. It's not like you're not making enough obstacles that we have to farm around, like terraces, creeks. Let's not forget canyons. Oh, and good old bedrock. All right, moving on to poles. Well, obviously we need power lines in this country, and obviously you can go under the wires, but the pole creates the problem, and especially when it's smack dab right in the middle of the field, like this one is. What's worse than a pole? 2 poles. But you have to be impressed with how close they got to this one. And as bad as 2 poles are, at least they don't have guide wires. This picture is from Canada. They call them hydro poles up there because hydro is how they make their electricity. Now here's an American version of a pole with guide wires. As you can see, it's more of a tower. I'm sure at the very top there's a bald eagle. He included a satellite view of this that shows how difficult it would be to farm around them. But at least electric poles are in a straight line, right? It does make it easier for the farmer, except for here. I don't know what happened here. All he said was it was a long story. They were supposed to be in a straight row, and it was a long story, is all he said. Now, it's not just poles. What about farming around good old black gold? That's right, Texas tea. Good old liquid dinosaurs. Look how hypnotic that is. That would be the problem. You'd be watching that all the time, and then eventually you'd run into it. Farming around one wouldn't be the end of the world, but look at this satellite picture. This is what Matt McCune has to spray around. You remember that guy? He's the guy that always gets stuck in the sprayer. In fact, look, let's revisit some of Matt's greatest hits. Matt McCune from Western Kansas might just take the cake, though. Matt, that does not look like a good time. I'm glad it's your good time. Dad told me not to go there. Oh, did he, Matt? Maybe you should have listened to him. I bet he told you not to go there either. Don't cross that land bridge, son. It's a bit soggy out there. Matt says, I bet your day is going better than mine. Well, Matt, I spent the season without getting my sprayer stuck. Matt's comment on this one was, don't let your salesman run commercial rigs. Oh, sure. And now you're trying to blame the sales guy. So Matt decided to let the ground dry up a bit. 2 days later, he gets the same salesman and the same results. How about this? How about farming around the center point of the northwestern hemisphere? I didn't even know that was a thing. What do you do with this? Does the local Druid Society rent this thing out for the solstice? Can you have a picnic here? It's got a fence around it. Does that mean you can't do the thing where you put a hand and a hand and a foot in all 4 corners? Is there a guard there? Could you imagine if you were the guard It's probably some very crotchety old guy who doesn't like to answer questions. Sir, can you tell me more about this? Can you tell me who discovered us? He'd be like, I don't know, somebody with a compass. Move along, let the people behind you. Sir, there's nobody on it. I said, move along. It's a grumpy old guard. Why don't we move on to relics of farming past? Here's an old concrete silo just standing out in the middle of the field. Writing away. Do you think Rapunzel is up there? Or just a family of filthy raccoons? How about this old concrete tank made in 1906? It's been a pain in someone's rear end for almost a century. Now, there are plenty of these scattered around America's heartland. The old original water pump. How about an old grain bin that couldn't be more inconveniently placed? Actually, they should sell this thing. It could be somebody's Pinterest project, you know, how they do the backyard things with them. One thing people might not know is that there are thousands of abandoned cemeteries that farmers respectfully farm around. But on a brighter note, this is a picture of a farm that was supposedly owned by a priest that put a cross on it at the high point. Here's a picture of a shrine. I guess the story is there used to be a train track from a quarry that went through this field, and then the farmer built this shrine with the rocks that fell off the rail cars. These are just a few of the things that we farm around so we can feed you all.
This week's Machinery Clip of the Week is presented by John Deere.
I don't have cows, so I'm not sure if this is common practice or not. Maybe he lost his herd dog and he's using the sprayer. Maybe he doesn't see the cows. Maybe his buddy bet him $10 that he couldn't go out there and spank a cow with a sprayer. Maybe this is just what they do in Texas. They spank cows and they chase armadillos. This is apparently a bridge. I have questions. A bridge over what? The field. The field is like completely flat. This is like when you find a fossil of a shell in a place where water is nowhere to be found. And there's always some like dude that read an article on some prehistoric times. So he's like, man, this used to be like all oceans. Really? Just because you halfway read a plaque at your local museum does not make you an expert. Oh yeah, and tell me, please tell me how you can take the DNA out of a starling to make a T-Rex. Thank you, Dr. Hammond. Go be crazy somewhere else. Dr. Hammond was the guy off Jurassic Park. If you didn't get that reference. Let's see. Oh yeah, the bridge. Maybe it's not a bridge. Maybe it's a porthole. Porthole into another dimension. Maybe a troll lives under there. Maybe this is where politicians are born. I don't know. Is it creepy or is it cool? Maybe just remove it. Maybe they can't remove it. Maybe it's cursed. There is a cursed bridge in Illinois. Cherry Valley, Illinois. The Blood Point Bridges. Supposedly, the story goes, there was a bus accident, and now you have stories saying that people are seeing a phantom dog or a vanishing barn. That's right. A school bus accident has led to hauntings by a dog and a barn. Can you imagine? Your kids are all like, "Mommy, I can't sleep. What's wrong, little Timmy? Oh, I'm afraid of the ghost barn. I'm afraid that they're going to store livestock in the ghost barn, and then the livestock's gonna be scared." Illinois, you literally can't make this stuff up. What in the Willard Scott is going on here? Is he okay? It's like he's reaching in a hole for something. Maybe he's doing that noodling thing where they grab those giant catfish out of their holes with nothing more than their bare hands. Well, I mean, it wouldn't be a catfish because, we're on land. Maybe it's a baby calf. Maybe a lamb. Nope, it's a badger. It's a badger. That's right. One of North America's most vicious creatures. This thing is basically just teeth and fur and claws, and you wrap it up and connect it with a bad attitude. And he just simply reaches in and yanks it out of its hole. I love this country. I get it. These little buggers can absolutely destroy pasture. And livestock, they can get seriously hurt when they're stepping in these holes. But removing them this way is probably best left to the experts, which I don't know if he is, but yeah, don't try this at home. Honey badger don't care. Oh, you'll care. You'll care when you're flying through the air after losing your tunnel tug of war. Again, I'm not a cattle guy. I don't know much about them, but I do know one of the more dangerous parts is when you separate the calf from the mom when you need to work with the calf. This is ingenious. This keeps everybody safe, and this gets the calf treatment he needs. How about a moment of, aww? If this doesn't say rural America in summertime, well, I don't know what does. They don't fall, by the way, if you're waiting for that. It's not like those other ones. Field skips. I mean, it's not uncommon, right? And especially here at the end of the row, that's where a lot of them happen. The thing is, when you stop a planter in the middle of the field, and even with like the vacuums, you still leave that on, there's going to be, I don't know, that much that doesn't get planted. It's a little skip. And yeah, you can pick up the planter and back up and do it, and then you get a little bit of double stuff. It's not perfect. That's the thing. You want it perfect. As a farmer, you're sitting there in the planter going, man, I hope everything's perfect. Sometimes nature calls, right? Sometimes you have to, as I said, make water, right? But you don't want to stop, because if you stop, you're going to have that imperfection in the field. So you keep going. Here's the thing, though. When you get to the end, you're going to turn around. So you're thinking about that. You're like, okay, we got to lift this, got to turn around. Then you get it down, you set, you're going down the next row. You remember, I forgot to go. But you don't want to stop. So you keep going. And then the same thing happens at the other end. It's like 45 minutes later, and you realize, I'm going to have to stop or I'm going to explode. I can't be the only farmer that has to go through this. Thanks for spending some time with us here on SharkFarmer TV. For more stories about people in agriculture, catch my shows on Rural Radio Channel 147 Sirius XM. There's more in-depth discussions on my podcast, and of course, you can check out previous episodes of this show on my YouTube channel. Find out more at sharkfarmer.com.